Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another day of Kit Conspiracy. This is a bonus layout. We don't always post on Saturday, but you're getting one from me. I am combining it with a celebration hop for Helen Ding. She has reached 500 subscribers over on her channel, and she has asked us to do a grab 5 style layout. So the 5 items that she selected were tags, stitching, 2 or more photos, a white background, and either mixed media or doodling. And mine is, I went a little bit off books on this, but if you put it all together, it's these 2 photos that I've got on the right hand side. And I am doing mixed media. I'm starting with a white background. I'm going to do tags and stitching, but I'm also going to cut my layout in half, so it's going to end up being 2 6x12s, and that means there's going to be 1 photo on each page. But I'm building it side by side, and it's all starting with 1 sheet. So I don't know, hopefully this counts, but at any rate, this is a celebration. It's not a test, so go and check out Helen's channel if you haven't already. She is at Helen Ding, and she's got some great content over there. So congratulations, Helen, for reaching 500. I hope this meets your expectation of a grab 5. I had a lot of fun with it, and I really enjoyed doing this. So thank you for that. My 2 photos are of the Ruby Canyon when I was with MK and her husband, and that is why I'm doing a 6x12. I'm going to do an insert in between a double page layout that I did earlier in the week. And I am just kind of dry brushing a little bit of Nuvo Mousse over the top of my stencil. My stencil is a Heidi Swap stencil, and it's really old. Don't even know the name of it. You probably can't get it. I'm sure you can't get it anymore, but I love it because it is a sunburst and it's a good one. The colors that I'm using, I started with Cornflower Blue, and then I added a little bit of Coastal Surf to it. And I did have to spray my Nuvo Mousse a little bit, but I kind of rubbed it in with my my dry paintbrush as much as I could, and then went over it, so it's kind of got a dry brush effect to it, and I'm really liking the way that looks. Now, I thought about going over it again with this smaller stencil, but I decided not to, so I took my Heidi Swap stencil and I just offset it a bit, and then I went over it with some paper glaze in Mint Hydrangea. So this is a really, really light green, and I'm not looking for full coverage on this. I'm just looking for a little added texture and to pick up some of the other highlights that are in these photos. I didn't want it super blue. I didn't want it super green. This texture paste just was the perfect color for this. So kind of doing a really rough job of applying it, and then I'm going to apply it for the other paper as well. So I'm really happy with the way that this came out, and it takes it a little bit of dry time, but not a ton, because paper glaze dries really fast. I did add a little bit of water to my paper glaze before I put it away, because it looks like it's getting a little bit on the thick side, but I do love the paper glaze stuff from Picket Fence Studio. The colors I find are always really pretty, and again, it dries fast, so that is really nice when you're like, I really just want to work on my layout and get it done, and I don't want to have to wait for it to dry for hours, and I don't want to have to sit here and hold a heat gun on it. So it's relatively quickly that I'm able to come back and add a little bit of this mist to it, which I am using some Dina Wakley Media Gloss in Mineral and in Sky, just splattering it all over to bring in more of those blues. And it probably looks like I'm doing a monochromatic layout, but I am not. I'm going to add some brown to it in the embellishments. And I really like the way that it ends up looking. I think it looks really, really cool, and I'm really happy with the final result. So hopefully you enjoy it as well. So I just went through the laser cut elements, and I started pulling out anything that was blue and brown and the tags. I considered adding some patterned paper to it, but I don't end up using any patterned paper. I felt like it didn't really need it, and I'm really happy with that decision when all is said and done. And then the tags, you can see them in the bottom left-hand corner there. I wasn't really sure about using that center one that has the airplanes on it, but I went ahead and used it, even though, you know, there's no flying or airplanes in this. I'm also using a hot air balloon, and there's no hot air balloons, you know. I try not to be super literal, but that is always my fallback, is to be super literal with my layouts. But I liked the addition of this because the focus is the sky, and so I felt like it just worked really well. And so I'm really happy with how it ended up coming out with the pieces that I wasn't really 100% sure about in the beginning. So I did add a steering wheel because we are driving up there, and then I just happened to be really lucky sitting on the correct side, not like there's a wrong or a right side of the car, but I was sitting on the right side of the car to get this picture of the sun just peeking out from behind the mountains, and I really thought it looked really cool, and so I just went with it and snapped a few photos. There were actually several more I took as the sun was moving over a span of time, but these were the two that I found were the best. So I'm really happy with those, and I think they look really cool. I am using those little medallion pendant looking pieces, one up in the tag area and then one on the opposite page below the photo. I think that looks really cool. I'm not really blocking anything in the foreground of that vertical photo. It might look like there's some stuff getting blocked, but there's not really, because the focus is really the sky and the mountain, and everything in the foreground is kind of that really dark almost black color, so there's not a lot of detail there anyway. Now I am adding a little bit of jute to hold my tags up at the top here. I did use a little bit of liquid glue between my fingers and rolled the end of the jute between my fingers to keep all of those little strands together so that I could kind of lace these on or thread these onto the piece of twine that I've got there. And then I am going to trim that down a bit once it's all done. Does not really count as my stitching. I'm going to take everything at the very end over to my sewing machine and do stitching around the outside edge. And you don't get to see that because my camera is not set up so that I can film on my sewing machine. I don't really have a place to attach my camera or anywhere for it to be held on because it's just on a small table. And by small, I mean it really just holds my sewing machine and there's not much else to it. So I apologize that you don't get to see that, but you do see the stitching in the still shots at the very end. And I actually went around each of these layouts as though it was a single page, so only 3 edges are done. And I went over them 3 times. So there's like three different stitched lines around the outside edges of each of these pages. So I'm liking how this is coming together. I'm also not a huge bow fan, but I did end up using a blue bow on top of that hot air balloon. I thought that kind of worked well with it because, you know, hot air balloons always have like those lines hanging off of them and where they're held to the ground and all of that kind of stuff. And I don't know, it just felt like it worked well. So I'm going to go with it. I like it. And I guess that's really all that matters. So this other little medallion, I did put a little bit of the twine or the jute through that as well. And then I just tied it off at the top of the jute with another smaller piece of twine so that it would hold it all together. And I didn't have to put a knot in the jute that way because it's pretty thick and makes it extra bulky. I am layering up some suitcases here and another piece of chipboard that is like a little label plaque type of deal. I probably calling it the totally wrong thing, but that's okay. And then a camera right on top of that, and I like how that's looking. I am on a Zoom call while I am doing this, chatting with my friend Anne Marie, so that's why you see my hands going a little nuts there. Apparently I get very animated with my hands sometimes when I'm chatting. So it's funny the things you realize when you start watching yourself on a playback that you don't necessarily think about in real life. So I added a postage stamp up here and a compass rose behind that hot air balloon, and then I am using a little bit of dimensional adhesive to just support the hot air balloon because it is chipboard, and when you layer up something that doesn't have a lot of give to it, it tends to pop right off the page. So if it doesn't have good support, so I wanted to make sure that it had a good bit of support there. I did use the epoxy, I guess it's epoxy, I don't know, they call them bubbles and baubles, but I used the blue hot air balloon and I tucked it up behind the other hot air balloon so it looks like there's one further out, and I like how that looks. Just adding a couple of other little ones to my clusters here. I think I have one that says tour time, and sorry, I had to grab the page to see what the other one said. Sightseeing. Sightseeing is what the one up at the top says. And I'm liking how that looks because that is exactly what we're doing. They took us sightseeing and gave us a little tour of the canyon up there. The photos are not filtered at all. That is the actual blue that they just came out in my camera on my phone. And I think it was just beautiful and gorgeous. So thanks so much for watching, you guys. Go and check out what Helen has going on her channel. There will be a playlist down below of everyone playing along with her to celebrate, and then there is also a link to MK's channel where you can see what she's done for Kit Conspiracy. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys again real soon with another video. Bye bye.